Hi everybody, welcome to Jenkins Boat Works. I am Chuck Jenkins. Work today continues on our Somme Sound sailboat building project. But before I get to that, I want to announce that we have just gotten over 11,000 subscribers. I am amazed by that. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching the channel. We also just got over the 500 video mark. So we've got a lot of content. We've been doing this for a little while. We're glad you're here. If you haven't yet subscribed, consider doing so and dig into the channel. There's a lot of stuff in 500 videos. All right, so what are we going to do today? We're going to work on bevels and gains. And what that is in our glued lap straight construction, this plank laps over this plank, and by about 1 1/8 inch. So that's our lap. And on that lap, we've got to create a bevel so that the plank can lay on there, have a nice tight seam, and be glued on there without a lot of gaps. And then at the ends, we create a gain, which is chiseled out here so that the next plank, when it comes on there up at the end, it'll just lay smooth against there without having this ridge like it has through most of the length of the plank. Our video today is longer, and I hope that you'll enjoy that. Part of the reason it's longer is because I was faced with 3 very specific problems over the last several days. And admittedly, 2 of those problems were self-inflicted. And so I had to figure out how to get around them and figure out solutions to the problems. And so we do that. And honestly, that's kind of what I find addictive about boat building is, inevitably you have these things come up and then you got to figure out how to fix them. And I get great satisfaction out of that. So I hope you'll enjoy watching that. We're keeping it real. So, anyway, yeah, let's jump in. I'll show you what kind of work we're getting done. Wow. We got to cut our bevel in here. So we want this to lay flat up here on this lap line, which is about 1 1/8 inch. So we don't have to do very much on this one. That's sharp. So the idea is that you come down to your plank line and you want to get up to this line, which is the lap line. Now I've cut through it with the plane, but you can see that little dude is laying right on there and flat. And so we have to do this at each station. So you can see how that's not good at all. That's going to have to get planed off quite a little bit. And it's different at each station. So like here, we're going to have to take off a lot there. See that big gap in there? Here, maybe you don't have to take off very much at all. A little bit. It's really tricky back here where we've got this reverse curve on 14. You just kind of got to take some off and pray. So, but we're going to have a gain in here anyway. We're going to taper a cut down to almost nothing at the transom. So how much we got to take off here? Well, not very much, man. That's weird. That's almost reversed. I need to not take anything off of there. I think we're good. We're down to here. We're going to have to cut a gain in the front. I kind of destroyed some of my lap line when I was planing. What I found out is my yardstick is 1 1/8 wide, and the lap line is supposed to be 1 1/8. It's making this really convenient. All I got to do is run that on the bottom there of the plank. And there we are, new lap line. We got to come about 1 foot back. And cut this gain. And the idea is that we're going to taper this down to where we're almost down to nothing right here at the bow. So it'll be pretty much the full thickness here, and then get thinner and thinner and thinner, so that when that next plank lays on there, it's flush with this. So it's just a gradual dig into this. We had a screw in there. Is that screw still in there? No, it's not in there. I already got it out of there. No, it's just countersunk in the hole where it went in. That's glued tight, so we're good. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my Japanese saw and see if I can cut the line. I want this one that's got the rigid back. This thing is extremely sharp. And quite the thin curve. So we're going to be like next to nothing up here, so we got to have a deeper cut down here. It's all guesswork. I'm just gonna saw on this end more than this end. And this is so sharp. This plank's only 3/8 of an inch thick, so it doesn't take much. I just dropped this barely on my finger earlier. Bled like. That's probably a good start. Now all I got to do is just taper this down and get deeper into it as we get up to here. And it's nice that I've got that line scored in there and cut so that I can bring that in there. I can see if I'm getting progressively narrower by looking on the underside of here. Okay. We're going to take that down to almost nothing. The other thing I found that works well is this Japanese rasp. I'm getting ready to put on the first broad strake. So the garboard's on there, the other one's cutting up here. And I'm looking at this, and I'm coming up here to the 4-foot frame, and it just dips in. I don't like it. I don't like the way it's laying. And I epoxied it to the frame. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera, but it is attached to the forward edge of this, and it's dipping down. Some of it might be optical illusion because of my planing off the lap line, but no, it's just not right. I'm gonna take the saw, Japanese saw, and come up underneath here. I don't think you can see that probably, but right up under here. It's not attached back here. I think I can just take the saw and cut that epoxy loose. Maybe this will pop back up and lay fair. I can't live with it like that. So I did take the Japanese saw and go up underneath here and cut this epoxy loose. This was glued down just a little bit on the forward edge of this frame. Then I made this little piece of mahogany, sort of a wedge. And you might be able to see what I'm talking about where it's a wedge. It's thicker aft than it is forward. And so then I just crammed that up in there between the frame and the plank. And it appears to lay more fair that way. So we're gonna fit this next plank, and I already got it over here on the bench, planing it down. Look at all we took off. So we're gonna put it back up here, fit it, see if it fits down in between the batten now and the lap line, and then we'll work on the rest of fitting the gain here. We still have to cut the gain back here at the transom. So getting close to being able to hang this broad strake. Okay, we just fitted the plank again in here, and it's laying right on the batten and pretty much right on the lap line. I took black magic marker and made that lap line so I could really see it. Up in the middle, we're not getting all the way to the lap line by about a 1/4 inch, but we still will have an inch of lap, and with enough thickened epoxy, I think it's gonna just be fine. Other than that, the plank's fitting really well. So now we gotta cut this gain back here. Now this is this piece that we filled these cracks in with thickened epoxy to help maintain this curve. And I haven't pulled this screw out of here yet to see if it's gonna hold. I'm not going to for a minute. What I am gonna do is take my Japanese saw and cut on this line down here and try to get a straight line in here that I can then take my chisel and chip this out of here in an increasing depth till we get back to here. And so up here, it's gonna be pretty much nothing, just where the lap line is. And then as we get further back, it'll get deeper and deeper so that that next plank can lay on top of that gain and pretty much lay smooth next to it. So the top of this plank will be even with the top of this plank. it'll lap over up here and forward, but back here we just want it to lay in there just smooth against that. All right, so I'm just gonna take my saw and just try to cut a line in there. Saw's so sharp. You got to get that sawdust out of there. Stupid flies, and it needs to freeze. I'm going to get my wish this next week. Oh my, there's a screw in there. There's a bronze screw in there. Well, that was clearly a mistake. I'm going to see if I can get that out of there. I've covered it over with epoxy. I don't know if I can. Take some saw I don't care about, see if I can cut into it. Long time. It's already kind of trashed. There's a couple of teeth missing in it. So I don't care if I make it worse. Actually taking a hacksaw to it. Part of that's tricky because there's a little line of epoxy in there. I'm still fighting with this gain back here. And we have this little screw, bronze screw in here. I found a file. I've been taking it down with that. But then the more I look at this, the more troubled I am with it. It's not laying down very well here. I thought about trying to glue that. See, I can bend it. It's not hitting the transom here. It's good up here, but not here. I'm thinking maybe I just cut this off right here and get rid of all this and then trim this down real super thin and narrow and then let the next plank actually rest on the transom and glue to it. I'm thinking I'm going to do that, but in the meantime, I still got to get this out of here, and now I'm really going to have to get it out of there. So Maybe we cut this out of here first and then figure out how to go ahead and trim that on down. The file's working. It's almost even and smooth with that now. So anyway, I think I'm gonna, in order to do that, I'm gonna cut part of this off. Yeah, you can see I have a line here. And then I think in order to do that, I'm gonna probably have to cut some off of this side as well. I'm nervous about taking my saw up in there, underneath there, to get the right angle to do it. So I think I'm gonna take a very thin piece. I think I got some very thin, oh yeah, I've got this stuff that I'm using for making our battens. This stuff's super thin. I got a bigger piece than that. We'll just take and put that up underneath there and then lay the saw against it and then see if we can cut those off. Yeah. You know, that's the fun of this. Figuring out what's the next thing to do or how to fix little problems. It's very satisfying. And we should get a pretty decent angle too. I think I'm going to re-clamp this, go the other way. You can see that my saw did get into this just a little bit, so that was a good idea. We protected the transom completely. We didn't get any saw marks on it at all. See, I just got it clamped down here. I should be able to take the saw and come up underneath there. I'm using this Japanese saw that's just a little bit flexible. I have this other one that's got the rigid back on it that keeps the blade straighter. I just got these not very long ago. I had, you know, this cheap Irwin one. And I've used this a lot, and I still use it. I'm glad I spent the money. There's a world of difference between this and this. The other side. All right. And I believe that's going to be my best answer. I don't know if you can see that. There's just this little gap. I can even push it down a little bit. All right. And there's even a gap up here. We can fill that with epoxy. But I don't want to keep creating the problem coming down here. I can bend that down, but I don't know how I'm going to hold it to glue it. Plus, then I'll have to bend that plywood kind of harshly. I'm gonna cut this off right there, where this joint is between the transom and that little shoulder piece that's in the back there. I'm gonna just come right up like that. We'll just cut that whole thing off of there. Here's that little problem screw. Well, that surely does expose that screw. I'm gonna take the hacksaw to that, get that out of there. That's gonna fix that. Now, I can bevel this. I can take this down to almost nothing, and then we should be able to just lay that next piece on the transom and make sure it gets screwed down to that. Where's my hacksaw? All right, so I was able to get the hacksaw right in there, and I cut that off flush, that little screw. And in the process, I managed to knock off just a little bit of this, which is okay because it needs to come on down on this bevel. We're gonna put a little, I'm gonna sand that, just get that real smooth coming into there. And then we're gonna do a little test piece to make sure that we can get that to lay down in there. Okay, so we got this plank back up on here, and so we're trying to get it to lay down on the transom here. I've cut a whole bunch of relief points in this, even though it's not as sharp a bend as this one. And I'm able to get it to match up in that gain up here. Now, what I should not have done was taken out as much as I did on the underside of this. But I can get this thing to bend and lay down on the transom completely with no gap in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick a little, we're just going to build that back up from, where's my pencil? From about here all the way there underneath to, and then there's another line here. So if I just fit a little piece of plywood and glue it in there, that should raise that up to where it'll be flush with this, and it can still lay down on there and we won't have a big gap underneath here. You can see what I'm talking about right there. I shouldn't have cut that out. Okay, so we've already got this gain cut here coming up off of the garboard plank coming up into the stem, and that's a pretty nice smooth transition. And I'm able to get this plank to match up in there, but it's still proud of this plank just a little bit. And I want that to be pretty well smooth like it is on this side. So we're gonna go on the underside of this and take out a little bit. And I've made a couple of marks here, how far back I want to go. I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off. I've already got it marked. I'm scared to do that, but this batten's getting in the way here, but obviously that's coming off. And in fact, I already unscrewed it in the back so that I could get that plank to lay in there. Boy, that's perfect. It's actually up above the batten now. And you can see that plank line right there, where that's the tip of this is supposed to come down to. Pretty harsh bend coming up here. You gotta make sure that this part's underneath this. There we go, underneath the gain there. See her set down? Okay, good. And that flares in there nicely. I already drilled this hole here. That should just pull that right in there. Perfect. Really nice. Just gonna put a screw on that, spread that load. It's only staying there until we get this glued down. Oh yeah, nice and tight, nice and tight. That fixed it. If you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.